I'm not ashamed to own my Lord, nor to defend his cause. Maintain the honors of his word, the glory of his cross.
Hello, I'm James Brown, and on behalf of the Eastern Church of Christ located in Toronto, Canada, I'd like to welcome you to our Sunday question and answer edition of Walking Through the Bible, a podcast where we seek to study the Bible and the Bible alone. Please stick around afterwards for information on how you can contact us. But for now, we'll turn you over to Jeremy Dieselkamp for our question of the day.
Thank you, James, and welcome to all of our viewers. Before we get to today's question, I'd like to remind everyone watching that they can submit their own questions to be answered, either by commenting on any one of our videos or by emailing them to answerintheword@gmail.com. Obviously, not every question can be answered for this podcast, but if such is the case, we'll either email you back an answer or respond to your comment in the comments section. Today's question is, do people have to sin? Sin is all around us. Turn on your televisions and you'll find sin there. Surf around the internet and you'll find sin there. In fact, just about every place you go, you have the opportunity to find sin. Hopefully that's not true when you go and meet with the church, but sad as it is to say, sin even creeps in among God's children. That leads many people to believe that it's impossible not to sin, and so they just accept that as a fact of life. Where do people get this idea from? Unfortunately, some of it comes from the religious world in reasoning why we sin in the first place. Has anyone ever told you that you have a sin nature? What they mean by that is that before you were born again, that you were a sinner by nature, and there was nothing you could do to prevent that, for sin itself was ingrained or programmed into your system. Are there verses in the Bible that teach this doctrine, the doctrine of a sin nature? No. Now, yes, there are verses that people use to try and teach this doctrine, but the Bible only teaches this doctrine when verses are misused. One of those verses is Ephesians 2, 1-3, which reads, "And you were dead in the trespasses and sins in which you once walked, following the course of this world, following the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that is now at work in the sons of disobedience, among whom we all once lived in the passions of our flesh, carrying out the desires of the body and the mind, and were by nature children of wrath, like the rest of mankind." Is this verse teaching us about a sin nature? No. It is saying that walking in sin is such that it becomes like second nature to us. We sin without even thinking about it. In other words, we copy what we see other people doing, and what we see other people doing is sin. But doesn't this verse say that by nature you were children of wrath? Doesn't that mean that nature ingrains us with sin? Let's go to the book of Romans and read chapter 2, verse 14. "For when Gentiles who do not have the law by nature do what the law requires, they are a law to themselves, even though they do not have the law." The same Greek word phusis, Phusis, is used both in Ephesians 2 and Romans 2 and is translated as by nature. Both verses are talking about what we were before we became Christians. If Ephesians 2 teaches we have a sin nature and therefore have to choose the wrong, then Romans 2 teaches us that we have a righteous nature and therefore have to choose the right. There's no two ways about it. But a person who has read their Bible would know that Romans 2 isn't talking about a righteous nature, just as Ephesians 2 isn't talking about a sin nature. What both these verses are teaching us is that when we do what is just and right, we're righteous, and when we do what is wrong and sinful, we're sinning and sinful. You see, God ingrained in us a free will, the ability to make the choice between right and wrong. We do not have to make the wrong choice, just like we don't have to make the right choice. It's our choice. And because it is our choice, we can be held accountable for our choices. Getting back to Romans 2, Paul is saying that it was right to hold the Gentiles accountable for sin, even though they weren't given the law of Moses, because they had the ability to choose what is right, because even without the law, they did choose to do some right things. However, when they chose the wrong, they were lost and in need of a Savior. Without a Savior and obedience to that Savior, God would hold the Gentiles accountable for their sin and cast them to hell. The same thing went for the Jew. If they broke the law of Moses, they were lost and in need of a Savior. Without a Savior and obedience to that Savior, God would hold the Jews accountable for their sin and cast them to hell. It's not that we have to sin, but the fact that we do sin, that means we need God's grace. Nobody will ever be saved on their own merits, for we all sin. We will thus be saved by grace through faith. I hope everyone watching will choose to obey God according to the Scriptures and be saved by His grace. Well, I know much more can be said on the topic, but our time is up for now. Please watch this week's sermon titled, The Marks of a Christian, a Loving Person, which James will give you instructions on where to find in a moment. We will be taking a 1-week break to conclude the month of March, so we invite you to join us again, the Lord willing, on Monday, April 2nd, 2018, when we will be continuing our study of Genesis, beginning at Genesis 37, verse 1, talking about the story of Joseph.
Thank you, Jeremy. And for our viewers, we also thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. Should you have any questions or comments, please leave them below or email them to answerintheword@gmail.com. We'll try to respond to you as quickly as we can. We hope you'll also watch today's sermon edition, which can be found on our YouTube channel under the Walking Through the Bible 2018 Sermons playlist. We will be taking a 1-week break to conclude the month of March. So we invite you to join us again, Lord's willing, on Monday, April 2nd, 2018, when we will be continuing on the study of the book of Genesis. Goodbye for now and have a great day.
I'm not ashamed to own my Lord, nor to defend His